Revenge on a cop for cheating. I pulled up and parked outside the police station in our mid-sized town. My mind was working feverishly, and I needed to get the anger inside of me under control. I kept repeating to myself, "Keep your cool. Watch your language. Don't cross the line. Don't threaten that asshole. Don't freak out. Make sure there are witnesses. Burn the asshole." I kept repeating to myself, "Don't cross the line. Don't cross the line," over and over again as I walked to the entrance of the station. I walked up to that thick bulletproof window and asked in as normal a voice as I could, "Is Officer Jenkins here? I'd like to talk to him." The female officer outside the window asked, "What's this about?" "I'm trying to save his life." That got her attention. 2 minutes later, the arrogant asshole was standing in front of me, smiling as if he recognized me. "Officer Jenkins, I'm David Smith. I believe you've met my wife?" Now his smile had turned into a smirk. I can see the word kook wanting to fly off his lips. "What can I do for you, Mr. Smith?" I thought to myself, "I'm going to wipe that smirk off your face, you worthless asshole." In the calmest, most innocuous voice I was capable of, as if I were reading the news, I said, "I'm here to save your life, though frankly, it's probably too late. You're almost dead already." He didn't take the news very well. "You're threatening me!" He put his hand on his gun as his 3 cop friends heard his words and headed in our direction. "You coward!" I raised my voice a little so his friends could hear. "Not at all. You've already killed yourself. I just want to make sure you don't kill anyone else." His buddies gathered around me while the female officer behind the glass watched the whole thing. I let my voice return to a normal, non-threatening level. "See, I saw you leaving my house this morning. When I went inside, I found that the bed I usually sleep on had been turned around, and you had left some of your stains on the sheets. My wife gave me your name. But now that I see you, I recognize you as the guy who made love to her. So I owe it to you to make sure you understand all the consequences of what you did. If you hit her, you coward, I will burn you. I'll drag you out and make you disappear." That's an interesting threat. I can only assume your buddies here are not complicit in your plans to break the law. However, I did not lay a hand on her, nor am I threatening you. I'm just doing my civic duty to make sure no one dies unnecessarily, except, I suppose, you two, but there's nothing I can do about it now. His cop buddies were now crowding around me. "You see, my wife is HIV positive, and I'm guessing from the stains that you made love to her without protection." His buddies took a step back. "About a year and a half ago, I came home early from a business trip, like this morning, and caught her with a guy she works with. I kicked her out and divorced her. About a year later, she tested positive for HIV. The woman she was living with, just a friend from work, kicked her out of the apartment, and her parents disowned her. She showed up at my door with her bag in her hand, begging me to shelter her. Well, she was my ex-wife by then, but it's still hard to turn your back on all those years together, so I let her stay in my guest room. I'll give her credit. For the first time in her life, she told me the truth. She told me about the positive test result. Needless to say, I haven't made love to her once since the day I kicked her out. I don't know when she caught the virus, but I've been tested several times, and so far I'm still negative. Can't be too careful, right?" By this time, his buddies had backed up 2 more steps, giving Officer Jenkins and I plenty of room, but they were listening intently. "So here's the deal. As far as I know, my ex hasn't made love in at least 6 months. She's an inveterate liar and a bit of a narcissist. Alcohol doesn't make her any better at telling the truth. I'm guessing you picked her up at a bar somewhere, or maybe somewhere else. I don't really care. Like I said, she's my ex. I just want to warn you that there's a good chance you've contracted the virus. It takes about 6 months for it to show up in tests, but in the meantime, you could pass it on to someone else. You're married, aren't you?" I could see from the ring on his finger that he was married. "If you're having sex with your wife, you really need to use protection until the test results come back. Tell your wife you have a urinary tract infection or something like that. I'm sure you're already good at lying to her." I saw the hatred in his eyes. He wanted to kill me, but there were witnesses. Good thing I decided to do it at the police station. What kind of asshole would kill the messenger anyway? Well, I just wanted you to know. You need to start getting tested. I doubt my ex will tell you. I nodded, turned, and walked towards the door. Have a good day! Driving away from the station, I couldn't keep the smile on my face. My wife wasn't HIV positive, and she wasn't my ex-wife yet. She would be, of course, but later. I had been honest when I told Officer Jenkins that my wife was unfamiliar with the truth, though I hadn't been entirely honest when I told him he was infected. Well, a little lie. That's on my conscience. I spent the first few miles looking in the rearview mirror, wondering if Officer Jenkins or his friends would follow me. I guess they had better things to do. It was funny to think about the chaos that was going on at the station. 20 minutes later, I stopped by my favorite diner to meet up with my friends. I had texted them that morning. I have the kind of friends who are always willing to eat together at a diner. We preferred breakfast, but in a pinch, lunch would do. We usually sat and talked, made bad jokes, and exchanged insults. My friends knew me too well, and in the middle of the meal, they asked what was bothering me. Taking a deep breath, I told them, if you can't tell your problems to your friends, who can you tell? I've always said that lunch with friends can be the best therapy a guy can get. And that day, they proved me right. Man to man, they were supportive, and I knew their wives would be too. The rest of the lunch went a little gloomy, but I knew I wasn't alone. They told me they had my back if dishonorable Officer Jenkins came after me. I'll admit, I drove home feeling a lot better than I did this morning when I left. That didn't last long. When I got home, there were police cars scattered on the street and a swarm of blue lights on my property. Great. I thought they were coming for me. I was stopped by an officer who seemed to recognize me. Mr. Smith, would you mind parking here and getting out of your car? I have to tell you that people know where I am, and I had lunch with 5 witnesses in case you are planning something. Sir, could you please step out of your car? I got out, stood by my car, and waited. Eventually, a fat detective in a cheap suit approached me. Mr. Smith, could you tell me where you were today? As you probably know, I went to the police station this morning. Then I went to the diner to have lunch with some friends. I have witnesses who will testify that I was there. I would like to know their names, but you are not currently under suspicion. So can you tell me what's going on, or are you going to keep me hanging? Neighbors report that just before noon, Officer Jenkins drove across your front lawn and crashed his patrol car into your front porch. He then entered your home. We're assuming there was some sort of confrontation. We have a pretty good idea of what they were arguing about because your appearance at the station this morning did not go unnoticed. Neighbors heard 2 shots fired. We found your wife and Officer Jenkins dead in the living room. His service revolver had been fired twice. My wife was dead, and the asshole was watching me to see my reaction. Not a suspect! He tried to spin this as best he could to shield the police from any responsibility. You can't live half your adult life with a woman and not feel anything when you're told she's just been murdered. For the second time today, I was overwhelmed with anger and grief. I intended to divorce her, but I didn't want her to die. She's not really your ex-wife, is she? You're not really divorced, are you? No. And this was all just a performance at the station this morning, designed to get back at Jenkins, wasn't it? I looked him in the eye and said nothing. Well, I guess you got revenge on both of them. Congratulations. If it were up to me, I'd lock you up, but technically what you did isn't against the law. It's just something you're gonna have to live with. I'll be fine. I'm not a murderer. I'm not like your Officer Jenkins who shot a woman in cold blood. It didn't take a trained detective to read the expression on the faces of the police officers standing around us. It was the second time today that I was glad to have witnesses. I watched as the ambulance wheeled 2 gurneys out of the house, each carrying a body bag. There was nothing for me to do there, so I got back in my car and headed to my lawyer's office. After all, I didn't need this divorce anymore, but I better be prepared in case someone decided that lying was a bigger crime than murder. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.